Welcome to another edition of A Week of Mass Shootings. There were 10 mass shootings last week, so we're still in the double digits, and 6 of the cities are reporting their first one. I have my theories on why the majority every week are reporting their first one, but if you have an idea, I'd love to hear it. And we'll get to those 10 in just a second. But first, we have 628 reported mass shootings so far this year, hitting the 625 milestone on December 2nd. Last year, we hit that number on December 11th, 9 days later. And in 2021, our record-breaking year, we hit it on November 14th, more than 2 weeks earlier. So these are the mass shootings for November 27th through December 3rd. And there were no mass shootings on November 27th or 28th. And if you follow this channel, you know that it's really rare for us to go 2 days in a row without a mass shooting in America. It's very rare. It happened last week and it's happened this week, but we're into colder months, so it happens a little more, but it's very rare to go two days in a row. Okay, November 29th in Lexington, North Carolina, 5 people were injured. And this is the first one for Lexington, North Carolina this year. And this was basically a fight between 2 people that led to a shooting. It happened at a home around 9:30 p.m. and all the victims were adults. And no one was arrested, and the police apparently are not looking for any suspects. Also on November 29th in Chicago, Illinois, 1 was killed and 3 injured. And this is the 34th one for Chicago this year. And back in 2021, Chicago reported 60. So for them to be reporting 34 either means they're not all being reported or the city's doing really good as far as mass shootings this year. A 22-year-old male was killed. 3 females between the ages of 21 and 31 years old were injured. And females being a part of these mass shootings, the numbers are growing. It used to be, you go back a few years, maybe even just before 2020, it was mostly males. And now there's a good percentage of them are females now, where before there really wasn't. This one happened around 8:33 p.m. and the victims were arguing on the sidewalk and someone they knew just came up and shot them. And police say it was domestic in nature. So there were none on November 30th. And then December 1st in Las Vegas, Nevada, 1 were killed and 4 injured. And that was the first one for Las Vegas this year, which I found that kind of surprising that Las Vegas doesn't really get mass shootings just with the mass number of visitors they have every year. That's actually a pretty good statistic there. Our victims were all aged between 19 and 50 years old, and it was 1 shooter that went in and shot up a homeless camp, and it happened around 5:30. On December 2nd in Fresno, California, 2 were killed and 2 injured, and this was the first one for Fresno this year. They were all male victims, aged 30 to 41 years old, happened at 4:20 a.m. at a small gathering or house party, and at least 1 unidentified person showed up and started shooting. And the 2 deaths mark Fresno's 33rd and 34th homicides of the year, and last year at this time they had 54. So again, that city's either doing really well or they're not reporting all of the homicides. December 2nd in Aurora, Colorado, 0 were killed but 4 injured, and this is the first one for Aurora this year. And the victims were all aged 17 to 19. And the shooter was 18-year-old Andres Eduardo Lopez Garcia. And at first this guy they thought he was a shooter because he fled the scene in a car. They went on a car chase. The police chased him, and he had a gun in his car with him. And then it came out that they didn't think he was a shooter. So whether he was a shooter or not, I don't really know. They first said he was, and then they took it back and said, whatever. They just found him with a gun, but it wasn't him. And that was at a party with over 100 minors attending, and it happened at 12:15 a.m. And those large parties with the minors, oftentimes they're the location of these mass shootings. Okay, again on December 2nd in McComb, Mississippi, 5 were injured. And this is the first one for mccomb this year. And it happened at Petrol Plus. It was a gas station. The victims were attending a funeral across the street for another shooting victim. It wasn't really a funeral. It was like the parties that they give for funerals where everyone gets together. And it was at this event center. And they were having this gathering, and the shooting just happened. People just started shooting. And that the location of that event center had also had a shooting in 2022, in March of 2022. So it's in an area that, having shootings is not uncommon. December 2nd in Columbus, Ohio, 4 were injured. And this was a third one for Columbus this year. 3 adults and 1 juvenile were injured. And it happened at 4:30 a.m. in the Mount Vernon neighborhood. And the victims were all leaving a house, and a suspect began to shoot at them from a back porch after they got into an argument with them. So this was somebody that they knew was shooting at them. On December 3rd in Dallas, Texas, 4 were killed and 1 injured, and this was the 12th one for Dallas this year. 1-year-old and 3 adults were killed. A 15-year-old female was also injured. And this was the 34th mass murder with a gun, a mass murder shooting that we've had in America this year. It happened around 4:20 p.m. And the suspect was a neighbor who basically just walked into these guys' house and just started shooting. And at the time that I'm doing this video, they hadn't caught the suspect yet, and there's no known motive to why. Probably not until they catch him and he tells them. So December 3rd, Houston, Texas, 1 was killed and 3 injured, and this was a 10th one for Houston this year. And it happened at the Legends Lounge, or in the parking lot outside the Legends Lounge. 27-year-old Alexandria Wright was the one that was killed. She's a female, and 1 female and 2 males were injured. It happened around 1:47 a.m. And basically 20 people were celebrating a birthday party. They got into an argument inside the lounge. The fight spilled out into the parking lot that was next to this gas station, and at least 3 people started shooting. And Houston gets a bad rap for crime, but you'll notice that we just talked about one in Dallas, and Dallas has actually 2 more mass shootings this year than Houston has. Dallas has 12 and Houston only has 10 right now. I would say Houston has way more shooting incidents than Dallas, because Houston makes my top 10 list every week of the weekend shootings, and Dallas very rarely does. It does, but not very often. So I think the shootings in Houston, there's way more, but the ones they have in Dallas are a little more, more people are injured in those shootings. And also on December 3rd in Orchards, Washington, 4 were killed, and this is the first one for Orchards this year. Happened at 1 p.m., and it was family members received a text from somebody saying that they had just harmed people at a home. So police sent a drone out to look inside the home and saw people who appeared to be dead lying inside. And the shooter had apparently shot 4 people, then himself. And this is the 35th mass murder this year with a gun. And these when there's a lot of these family ones of the mass murders. We had the mass murder earlier where the guy went in and just shot up all his neighbors. That's less common than these, where a member of a family just takes everybody out. And at the time that I'm doing this video, they hadn't released the names of any of the victims. They probably were still looking to contact all the family members and make sure they all knew before they released the names out. But that's when it's a mass murder with a gun, that's what it likely is it's family members, some family member killing everybody in a family. This is a weekly video, so if you like this type of content, hit that like button, leave your thoughts in the comments, and consider subscribing. And I'll catch you next week.